on the surface level, the film is about patriarchy being evil,
right,
and it needs to be destroyed, and a redistributionist new political faction needs to take over. But on a symbolic level, it's not that. It's a melange of many different pieces being swirled together in interesting ways.
Right.
So Max, Furiosa abandons the evil old patriarch, but she marries Max.
Yeah.
Her interactions are spiritually that of marrying him.
Right.
So first they fight. They find a way to trust each other.
Yeah.
And then they begin to synchronize.
Yes.
Not just in words, but
Yes.
in their actions. They, as you said, they become a single component.
Yeah.
And eventually, he gives her his blood, and importantly, from a spiritual marriage point of view, he gives her his name.
Yeah.
At the end, which is it's the final stamp, the final thing.
Yeah.
Or you could say, in marriage, it's the most important thing that a man can give is his name.
On that, let's explore that a bit more. So, at the start of the movie, you have the tyrannical husband that hoards the mother's milk, and and he controls the flow of sustenance to his people. He can shut it off. It doesn't flow from the mothers. It doesn't flow from the mother. It flows from the tyrannical patriarch. Furiosa saves the brides, escapes with them, and along the way, in a sense, and this I think is shown by the fact that Max leaves at the end of the movie, she encounters the positive aspect of masculinity. And it's like a spirit. It arrives out of nowhere on a cross, interestingly, on a cross, in a slave's collar. Threatens her, beats her, helps her. Well, it doesn't. I mean, beats her in a fight. I specify. He's not physically violent to them, but he defeats her. But does it for survival reasons, not for oppressive reasons. Right. So he's a spirit. He's wandering. He's a ghost. At the end of the movie, the wives return to the home. The brides return to their home, and the mothers who were providing the sustenance open the floodwaters instead of the patriarchal figure.
So in a there's a symbol there which is not that it's patriarchy precisely, it's tyranny that's choking off the flow of the needed things. And it is and by the way, when they go and they find the mothers out in the desert, they're infertile, they're old, they have no children, the green place is gone. The women only, and it's very explicitly women only, because we can't trust men; they're all women. And they, what is it? She refers to her initiate mother. So it's clearly a woman-only system that collapsed. And so at the end, what you have is this almost a spiritual combination of positive masculine and positive feminine that has escaped from the tyrannical masculine.
Yes, and it's interesting because so on one end they are pursued by the all-male war bands, the three war bands, three tyrants at the head of each. One is gasoline, one is bullets, and one is control. One is
no, food.
Well, one is food, sure.
Food and water, but
Food and water.
yes, I think
sure.
control.
I it's a point. And on the other side, they're framed by those two. One side, the all-masculine war bands, and by the other, the all-female grown mothers.
Yeah.
And so, but interestingly, along the way, so they meet the spirit of positive masculinity, you could say, but also the male skinhead meets the war boy. He meets the positive spirit of femininity.
That's true.
He's redeemed by her, and he says, "What is it? The gates of Valhalla have opened 3 times for me, and every time I've heard the voices, and I've been unable to grasp it." And he is given empathy and love in a very real, tender way. And given a new life.
Also, Max himself, he's not really positively masculine at the start. He's in pure survival mode. He's more like an animal. He grunts. And it's through the forced need to protect women, that he himself is changed into something more human.
I've mentioned this before to you. Have you ever read Gilgamesh?
Yeah.
So I was very, very struck by Enkidu's bringing to civilization. The gods create Gilgamesh as the tyrant king. They create his twin in all force and personality. But he's a wild man. He's among the savages. He runs with the deer. He drinks from the streams. And they send a priestess of the goddess of sexuality. It's not love, it's sex. Right. And she seduces him and brings him to civilization. The reason I bring this up is Max is a wild animal who is brought to humanity. He actually learns to speak by this encounter with women.
So that's the component that I think everyone resonates. There's something that resonates underneath it, which is why we're animated. We watch something that matters. Symbols matter. Symbols matter more than many other things. So we watch it, we feel we've seen something important, and it's the relationship between Max and Furiosa, where they both become more than the whole becomes more than the sum of the parts, and achieves more than either could alone. However, it falls a little flat for me, and this is, I think, bound up with the Mad Max character. I don't think it can really go any other way. He has to wander. But the problem is that the thematically correct ending is for them to become king and queen. But instead, the king leaves. So this is, I would say, part of our current culture, where the heroic thing to do is to place the queen. But that element does not feel correct in terms of how we work as a species. It should have been Max and Furiosa manage the Citadel as a whole, with the combined positive and masculine feminine qualities. But they don't, and that's why the ending doesn't quite work for me.
I was actually okay with the ending. I do understand why that makes sense. But yeah, maybe it's, I guess it could work several different ways. But I don't know if it would have to hit that beat that you're talking about in order to work perfectly.
It doesn't have to. Obviously, I think it's a great film. But I think that's a beat that feels like it's missing. But it's a film of our time. So the fact that it is the way it is, the fact that it was made the way it was, I don't think can be changed. It had to be that way if it's a film made today. 10 years ago. So here's another thing that jumped out at me. The whole focus is on having healthy children. It's the scarcest thing they have. There are clearly many children. Obviously, there are a ton of war boys. They've all got tumors. They're not going to make it very long. They might be able to reproduce. So I think the implication is the wretched. I remember looking it up. That's the term they used in the plotting. The wretched are all the people down below. They have children. And some of them become war boys. But they're disfigured by the pressure of the environment. They're not good. They can't run the thing. They can't survive long enough. The other thing that jumped out at me was there are many tough guys in Immortan Joe's service. So the guys that run the gates, some of the guys who are on the rigs are clearly like in very good physical shape.
His sons.
Right.
Or one of them.
Immortan Joe, he's wearing medals. He clearly was an adult, a warrior, in the previous world. So I'm not sure the timeline works so well, but metaphorically I think it works. He's part of the old world. He's built something in the current world. And I think all the people in really good shape, the men, I think they were children when the apocalypse happened. That's why they're full lives. But all the children born afterwards are half-lives. And so the goal, Immortan Joe's goal, is to get more full-life children post-apocalypse. And that's also a beat that doesn't quite work. Because if that's in the world, then basically that is the fundamental problem. And he was at least approaching it. It was on his mind. The redistributionist ending does not acknowledge that this is still a problem.
I do know you mean about the timeline thing, because it feels as though the world that's presented has been around for a long time, like 100 years or something, like a long time. And the reason it feels that way is because you have people who are very clearly acclimatized to that environment or don't understand any other environment, and it feels like they've never known anything else. But if the apocalypse only happened like, I don't know, 30 years ago, then you would have people who would very clearly remember the old world, and their behavior would just be completely different.
So logically it doesn't work.
No.
But symbolically it still does. He's clearly he's the decaying old system.
Yeah.
He embodies it. He's clearly falling apart. He has to rely on his sons to like hold him up as he goes to show himself to the people.
Yeah.
So that symbolically it works even if the timeline doesn't.
Yeah.